Open my heart with the whispers of truth, to live a conscious life, to live a conscious life on the growing edge. On the growing edge.
And now, here's Allie.
Hello and welcome to Growing Edge Live. I'm Dr. Allie Benjamin, and it is my great joy to be here today. Welcome, whether you're here for the first time or you're back and you join us every week. I'm so glad that you're here. Here at Growing Edge Live, we are all about inspiring minds, healing hearts, transforming lives, and evolving consciousness. And we do that by having these deep, wonderful conversations with soul-centered individuals that are channeling their time, talent, energy, resources, love, creativity, their joy into doing good work in the world. And so every week we come on and we dive into the life of someone that is truly leaving a soul print on the planet and touching a lot of hearts. So welcome. I'm so glad you're here. And thank you to New Thought Media Network for making this possible, and the Satya Center for sponsoring this. At the beginning of the show, we love to take a question from our viewers. And today in the Ask Allie segment, I have a question from James. And James says, I find myself caught up in my mind, thinking, analyzing, planning, overcoming objectives, speculating, and the like. I have a lot of great ideas, but have trouble putting them into action. I seem to spend a lot of time spinning ideas around in my mind. Any tips? Well, James, I can absolutely relate. I can do the same thing. I have a lot of ideas and a lot of plans and can get really caught up in the habit of overthinking. I think many of us are challenged with this. And our culture really emphasizes the mind and thought and thinking. And we know, once we raise our hand and jump on the mindfulness path or the spiritual path, that we're more than just a mind. We're actually a spiritual being having this very human experience in a body that has a mind. And so as we begin to develop a practice of mindfulness, paying attention to what's going on in the world and just not being so connected to the thoughts and the emotions that are associated with our experiences, but knowing that they're there, we begin to sort of loosen our tendency to be so focused on the mind and its interpretation of things. And we begin to gain mastery over the mind, to be able to see the mind as a useful tool to help navigate this amazing human spiritual experience. And so something that I do that has been profoundly helpful is to do what I call 3-centered breathing. Now, science is showing us that the brain, along with the heart and along with the gut, has neural cells. And so there's intelligence, not only in the brain, but there's intelligence of the heart and there's intelligence of the gut. And so the head is associated with thinking and processing, and the heart is associated with feelings and emotions and knowing what we love and what we don't. And then the body, the gut, is associated with instincts, urges to do certain things or not. There's a great intelligence and intuition that lives within the body that we primarily tap into through this gut center. And so when you find yourself spinning and overanalyzing and overthinking, planning, overcoming objectives, speculating, and the like, it's time to just stop. And if you can, I like to think of the word stop as meaning surrender to one presence, S-T-O-P. Simply stop, surrender to one presence. That's the one life, the one power, the one infinite organizing intelligence. And in just a minute or two, you can do this simple exercise of breathing, using breath work to bring your breath down into the heart, into the mind, first of all, and start to notice that you have a local mind, that you're doing all the thinking and the processing. That's where all of that's going on. But then if you pause for a minute and think, there's the omniscience. There's the infinite realm of possibilities and potentialities that exist beyond my local mind. And this non-local mind, you might say, has a greater expanded sense of what's possible. And so as we do this breath and we come down into the mind and then expand from the local to the non-local, there's sort of a relaxing. It's like, oh, I'm not as attached to all of these little thoughts that are going on in here. I'm relaxed more in the greater fields, the quantum field of thoughts, of energy and information. And then bringing the breath down into the heart center, there's the local heart. Then there's the expanded heart. The local heart is about how you're feeling, what emotions you're experiencing, the ideas and things that you have in your heart that you want to do or be. And then there's the greater heart that's unconditional, loving acceptance. And so there's a blending and a merging that occurs when we bring the breath into the heart, and then the greater heart, the deeper heart of the universe, the heart of God. And then we bring the breath down into the body, into the belly, into the gut. And when we can feel our physical local presence, but we can also, as we expand it out into the omnipresence, we feel the oneness that we can experience when we open up and feel ourselves connected to the one life, the one presence, the one power that is existing right here and now that we're a part of. And so omniscience, omnipotence, omnipresence, and we start to do this breathing through the mind and the heart and the body, and we begin to see that we're not just this thinking analytical mind, that we actually have other intelligence that we can tap into, that's available to us, the intelligence of the heart. What would love do in this situation? The intelligence of the gut or the belly. What am I here to be? How am I here to act, to serve, to evolve? What am I feeling? What urges, what instincts can I tap into? There's greater intelligence. And the mind, when it's in coherence with the heart and the gut, then you have some wisdom. Then you're operating on all three intelligence cylinders, and you have greater discernment. There's greater ease and flow. There's a sense that you're in the zone. And this is being in your authentic power and having access to more than just that head center. You've got the heart center and the body center. And this is all in coherence and in alignment and offering you a greater resource to be able to navigate your life, to actually think up ideas, to establish goals, to establish the reason and the meaning behind why you're doing what you're doing and who you're being, and you start to give some heart to that, and then you start to embody it, bring it down into the earthly realm of action, of doing, and you start to see that you are a three-centered being that is here to navigate this earthly realm in a very conscious, alive way. This is quantum conscious co-creating at its finest. And you and me and all of us have the ability to bring online these three centers of intelligence So making plans, achieving goals, getting things done, going to work and doing a good job, having easy relationships, and all the things that we seem to fill our lives with, they're enhanced when we show up as grounded beings that have this ease and flow because we're in coherence. Our brain is now in tune with our purpose, with our love, with our emotions, and then backed up by all the actions we take in the world. Because really, when we're awake to who we really are and what we really are, we realize that we have the ability to be the hands of God serving, the heart of God loving, and the mind of God thinking. And so, James, I hope that's been helpful for you to realize that, yes, we get in the habit of over-identifying with the mind and all its ideas and thoughts, but we're so much more than that. Our spirit, our soul is seeking to be expressed, and it can do so much more vibrantly when we have all three intelligence centers active, on the go, and in the flow. So thank you. And if any of you watching have a question that you would like us to address here on Growing Edge Live, you can send us an email at growingedgelive@gmail.com, and we would love to bring your question into the forum here at Growing Edge Live. So now we move over to the most delightful section of our show here. And it's my conversation with a soul-centered individual. And this person, Charles Geddes, has been in my heart for so long. I'm imagining probably even before this lifetime, but that's for another show. So Reverend Charles is a new thought leader, a spiritual trailblazer. Reverend Charles' ministry has spanned over 50 years. His wisdom and love have inspired and supported countless individuals. He has served at many CSL centers around the US. He is one of the founders of the oldest ongoing metaphysical retreat in the world, and that's the Big Sky Retreat, which is in its 48th year. And now he leads Mind Your Own Becoming, which is a nonprofit organization which he founded in 2021. And Mind Your Own Becoming is a collective vision that there is no others. And we are all part of this healing journey together. So we're going to find out more about Charles and more about Mind Your Own Becoming and all the other things in just a minute. So let's not wait any longer, because my friend Charles, along with his friend Gus, they're on his shoulder. And for those of you that are listening to the podcast, there's this most adorable little doggy friend, his companion there. And so Charles and Gus, welcome.
Oh gosh, and Gus is coming over.
Here he comes.
Yeah, somebody called my name.
Oh no, I've disturbed him from his morning nap.
Yeah, let's see. There he is.
There he is. So cute.
Oh, beloved Allie, thank you.
Yeah, welcome,
And
Charles.
I loved your response to James, and something that I totally support everything that you reflected upon, and the simplicity and purity of getting out of the overwhelm that we can create within our minds. And what I've come to realize for me is that it's about being, not doing. And when I understand that, then it's much easier for the path of what I need to do to be revealed. But I need to approach it from what's mine to be, what's mine to experience, what's mine to feel. And everything that you led James to reflect upon from the mind to the heart to the gut. Oh, yes. And it is about opening to a spaciousness of purposefulness and being that comes when you empty your mind of everything so you can open to receive what is yours to be. That's the inquiry. And out of that, we are led, and not always with great clarity about how, because it's not ours to know how. It's ours to trust the way will be revealed when we're clear on what we want to be. And that's been my soul journey.
Yeah, well, I want to hear about that because
Yeah.
as you're sharing, you really are a trailblazer for so many of us because you've been on the stage, you've been behind the pulpit, you've been at the boardroom tables, you've been in so many branches and organizations and supported so many people in, their practitioner, their religious science or science of mind practitioner journeys, and education. I mean, you're just such a bright light for so many of us. And I know that because you and I have worked together for many years on the board of directors for the Big Sky Retreat, and we're together in the affiliated New Thought Network as members of that. And so, I know you and I know your journey, and I've just had the blessing of being able to be in the room and hear you bring amazing ideas together to help us to sort of stay on our path, to mind our own becoming. So I'm so thrilled to have you on the show so you can meet some of our guests can meet you, and maybe for the first time. So where did it all start for you? What's the growing edge, and that's the name of the show. And I like to think of the growing edge as sort of this now moment. We're on the very leading edge of our own becoming, and we've all had an incredible evolutionary journey throughout our lives, and your life has spanned many decades now.
Yeah.
And so where did it start? Like when did you first get this idea that there was, you had a calling of something more? Were you an inquisitive child? Were you really religious? Like, how did it all start?
I've been working on, for my own healing journey and clearing of remembrance of how it all started. And I actually had an experience in my mother's womb of feeling and sensing what was on the outside and not really wanting to come through. And it was not an easy journey, evidently, from my mother's reflection of how hard it was, and that she and I almost didn't make it. But what I realized, and from the earliest memories I have, is that I did know that I came from beyond, that there was something beyond. My dreams as an early youth and child were of cataclysmic events, and I know that was remembrance. That was remembrance from previous journeys and lives. So I was born with remembrance, and in a manner and way not everyone has. And so that led me to creating what I thought maybe were imaginary friends, but maybe not. That I've always sensed the angelic realm and sensed it from an energy field. So I could say that everything that I came in with gave me a connection that was beyond this place of earth. And this place of earth for me, in many ways, was not an easy do. I don't think it's an easy do for anybody. I think it's overwhelming because it's so conflicting to what we feel in our hearts, and that there's no others. And yet from early on, we learn separation. We learn divisiveness. We learn otherness in the context of There are those that are entitled. There are those that are, uh, are born with certain, like in the white supremacy, that, hey, oh my God, the lies that we are brought up with. So to zero in on your question, I know that I was gifted with being able to realize that there was something beyond and more. And I really got spent, quote, out of church by when I was going and coming out feeling worse than I went in.
Mm.
And that something's wrong with this picture. Uh, and in my early life, too, I had the privilege of being a part of raising my 4 nieces and helping with my sister with that when she divorced her first husband. And the gift of that was incredible. But just this purity of your question, that I've always known I was born, as we all are, in the galaxies. And this is the illusion, to be born here. We didn't begin here.
Mm.
And then coming into the teaching of New Thought, of Science of Mind, and realizing, wow, this makes sense. This I remember. And reading early on in my teen years, There is a River by Thomas Sugru, which is the reflection, the life of Edgar Casey.
Mm.
And reading that book, it was like, oh, okay, yeah, this is it. I remember, I do know this. So I've had that gift of remembrance, but wow, I've also had the pain of not honoring that remembrance and getting entrapped in the belief of duality, and that I was something abhorrent and terrible because I was conflicted sexually through my whole life of being born into a male body and feeling female. And back 82 years ago, that was pretty horrible. And
Yeah.
so all I can tell you is that my whole journey is about remembering there are no others. There's just us. And only when we finally get that can we be about being what we're supposed to be here for one another.
Yeah. Gosh, Charles, your journey has been such a rich one. And I've had the blessing of hearing you share your story in public and seeing the response from the people in the room. You really have a way of connecting people. And you're so open. You're so vulnerable. You wear your heart on your sleeve. And there's something so healing about that. You can, I've done it hundreds of times, walk into the room and look for Charles, and there he is. And he's, got a group of people around him because it's almost like, in a positive sense, a moth to a flame. People are interested in getting a bit of your light. And so, I've heard you share that you speak so, thinking about your early journey and feeling so unlovable or unloved or whatever that was. I don't want to put too many words in your mind into your story, but how did you cope with that? How were you a little one with all these feelings of the opposite of self-love? What was it that helped that mended it, that kept you going?
The innate reality of the child within me, and that child was born to be curious. That child was born to be in an adventure in this journey in life, and that it was meant to be predominantly fun. And I love laughter. I think laughter is so healing for all of us. And um, and and just feeling that whatever I was doing. I didn't understand doing and being as clearly as I do now, but that whatever I was doing, uh, that it could be about blessing for others. And you know, there's I'll paraphrase a statement in the Science of Mind text that Ernest Holmes said that if your desire is one that is pure in the context of that it is a blessing to everyone that you will come upon, then that is truly what you measure it by and go for. And I've shared that I went into the ministry for all the wrong reasons because I thought that if I did enough good, that if I served enough in such an arena, that I could overcome that inherent darkness and abhorrence that I felt eating away at my soul of being born on the wrong planet. And I have gained, thank you, that I wasn't born in the wrong planet. This was predestined to be, and that to come to a place now at 82, that for the clearest awareness of myself that I've ever held, that I'm only here for the purpose of loving. And above all, that begins with Charles and honoring and loving him. And that's where, you know, Mind Your Own Becoming is born from, but it was really born out of 2020 and the cataclysmic reality of change on our planet, Black Lives Matter, and realizing all that we haven't known historically and have been in ignorance of, and that we can no longer be, because we're here to know the truth that sets us free. And that truth is we all belong without exception. And can we learn from each other? And can we be accountable for past generations, for the horrors that have been created and brought upon this planet? Doesn't mean that I feel guilt and shame in regards to this present life, but it means that I'm accountable in this present life to see that future generations don't carry the same ignorance.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, we're going to go to a short break, and then we're going to come back and have a bigger conversation with, and he gets all blushed and flustered when I refer to him as this, but my friend, the living luminary, Charles Geddes.
Oh,
See
God.
you on the other side.
All right.
my mind. Open my heart with the whispers of truth. To live a conscious life, to live a conscious life. On the growing edge, on the growing edge.
And now, here's Allie.
And we're back. Charles, you've been in ministry in science of mind, sharing universal spiritual principles and practices, teaching metaphysics and self-empowerment for over 50 years. And I'm wondering, what's your view? What, here at the edge, the growing edge, what's going on with spirituality and churches and brick and mortar within the New Thought world? Where do you sit with it? Because I know we're going to have a deeper conversation about your ministry now, Mind Your Own Becoming, but I want to give you an opportunity to help us leaders, people that are listening that maybe used to or still do have a pulpit ministry, or those among us that are listening that maybe attend a spiritual center, or those of us that have found inspiration through reading books or getting their inspiration online. There's been so much conversation about, do churches really work anymore? And how do people, connect and have community and that feeling that we get when we meet in person? But yet there's so many churches that are failing, and organizations that are shifting and changing. So what's your thought about churches and spirituality these days?
Wow, that's an immense question.
And you've got 2 minutes. No, I'm just teasing.
Yeah, no, I'm fine with 2 minutes. The whole reality has changed, and that particularly in regards for me in the arena of New Thought, that the approach has to be different in the connection that we make to our community, and that we are more relevant than ever into what we seek to bring to that community and offer community services. I get to speak at the Helena Center for Conscious Living at least once a month here in Helena, Montana, and I love this center, even though it's a small center church, but they stay really active in giving to the community and are known for that, in serving food service and benefits to so more than one entity. And in actuality, they haven't had a defined spiritual leader for a significant time, but they bring, and we have powerful, wonderful sharers and speakers every week. So I think that, and it's available by Zoom and attendance, but I think New Thought centers remaining in the same historic way of doing church as it was, it can't be done that way anymore. So there has to be new creativity as how you are involved in the community. And it will look very different than what's been before. So all I can say is giving great encouragement to everyone that's still in a traditional pulpit ministry to really explore and do everything you can to be tapping in to the younger generations and what they need, so that you can open and have the courage to address that. And so I just think it has to look different. And and definitely Mind Your Own Becoming is not a center or a church. It is a completely different reality of a nonprofit. And I don't define it as a ministry per se, because it's a forum for people to come together to have the kind of dialogue, but we have universal principles behind it that are very new thought in the context of they're very simple and pure. But I just think we have to have the courage to change and see things in a whole new light. And for me, that's what Mind Your Own Becoming is. It's a whole new way of doing what's in my heart to do and grow. You know, I have to grow in my work, in my ministry. I have to stretch my mind to, quote, new thought, to new approach, to new ways. And wow, Mind Your Own Becoming has stretched me beyond anything I've ever imagined. And at times it's a bit scary. But
Yeah, well, I remember when you were in Fort Lauderdale and you were at Bridges, your center there, and you were starting to share with me and others that you had a calling to the mountains. And so, what can you tell us a little bit about, like, how you said goodbye to a center that you founded? What was that like? A work that you brought into reality that people came to and loved and enjoyed and experienced great teachings and healings, and then you handed that off, and then you moved, and I know that you're very young at heart, but to make a big move at your age across the country from the sunshine and the beaches and the spiritual community and the comfort of all that, to make a trek into the unknown, pretty much. Although you were raised in Colorado in the mountains, you had lived primarily on the West Coast and the East Coast in very different living environment than the mountains. So to go to the mountains in your 80s and start afresh. So I know I'm rambling on a bit about your journey, but so what was that like for you back in Fort Lauderdale at Bridges? You having this calling? What was that? Was it knock at the door, a dream? Like, what was it that stirred your heart to retire from your ministry?
it was in 2019 at the Big Sky Retreat. And I was sitting by this beautiful lake at the entrance that you come into. It's a man-made lake, but it's beautiful. And I was realizing how profoundly moved I was just feeling the energy there. There was family playing with their dog, and it was like, wow, I cherish the mountains. And I went back and sat on a hillside, beautiful green hillside, and I suddenly felt the presence of energy and angels around me. And it was, Charles, what do you want? I want to live the rest of my life here in the mountains. I want to complete this journey here. Okay, but I can't. And for years, I had all the factors of why I couldn't. Charles, you realize your age. Charles, you have no substantial income to back you. Charles, you don't have anything to go to. And the imprint from the angels was, none of that matters. Remember early on in the advice you gave James? It was, what do you want as a pure intent? What do you want? I want to surrender and lead the rest of my life where my soul is nurtured geographically, where it's fed, where I'm home. Mm-hmm. And so I went back to Florida with that clarity, I'm moving. Mm-hmm. Well, it took 2 years because 2020 hit. Mm-hmm. And I had no idea how it was going to happen. But always that energy field from the angels would say, you don't need to know, we know. And we'll reveal what you're to do as it's clear, as it unfolds, you'll know. We will reveal it to you. That's exactly what happened every step of the way. And every move I've had throughout my life, there's one thing that's essential, that we have the courage to let go of everything as it's been. And I did that with my first church, 11 years in Tucson, left it with $1,000 in my pocket, not knowing what I was going to. I spent time in California on staff with my beloved, cherished sister, Dr. Elizabeth Marshall in Inglewood, then had the Montebello Center, and then let go of everything as I knew it to go to Florida. Everything. And I've always done that because to me, that's what a calling requires. That it's not that you have everything set structurally how to do it, but that you trust this is intended for you to be in a new state of being for you. And so that's how I came to Florida. I let it all go, and I packed what I could in my car and drove cross country on my own, except I had my friend Reverend Kent Barnard, who came to Houston with me, but from that point I was pretty much on my own and came here. And I had been working with the Helena Center in their journey of leadership in Zoom. So I had friends here in Helena, and I thought I was going to go to Bozeman, but it turned out I wound up here in Clancy, Montana, about 9 miles out of Helena. And when I first drove up here, Deb, who's the owner of the property, beautiful, beautiful lady, you know Deb, and she said, well, I have a downstairs 1 bedroom that you could stay till you find a place in Helena, because I thought I want a 2-bedroom. I wound up here on the property, and my breath was taken away. It's like, oh God, this is beautiful here. And I saw this basement apartment, and that afternoon I was looking at it and I thought, wow, I think I could fix this to be a home, because there was next to nothing in it. But that afternoon, I had this overwhelming feeling of, golly, I wonder. And I was told, angel energy again. And the angel said, Charles, go down by the stream. There's a stream that wraps around there. I go down by the stream, and it's gorgeous. And the message, we've led you here, Charles. This is home. This is home.
Yeah.
And it'll soon be 3 years I've been here.
Wow, 3 years, and you're home. You've got Deb and Gus and all your friends at the center. I think there's a horse on property, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. And so in this beautiful place of home, and I saw this coming into reality at the Big Sky Retreat, this mind your own becoming got stirred up. This idea of, equality and acceptance and all inclusivity and a healing path, a forum has blossomed. And I'd love you to share about mind your own becoming. What exactly is it? How do people find out about it, participate with it?
Thank you.
Is it virtual? Is it in person? Tell us about what it is.
Okay, I so appreciate it. And I want to read this segment from the website. And the website is really, it's just M.Y.O.B, and you spell the word incorporated out.org, M.Y.O.B, incorporated.org. But I want to read this because this really zeroes in on the heart of what it's about. Mind your own becoming is about soul growth. And that only occurs when we've had enough of what we see around us. The greatest changes historically have been when, as a society, we can no longer process the pain and inequities we see. When we are open to confront, no matter how uncomfortable, our own inherent racism and entitlements based on a sense of superiority, gender or ethnic prejudices, and be accountable for the thoughts we carry, healing and new understanding can emerge. We can authentically begin to bring about a world vision of love and regard for everyone without exception.
Mm,
That's the heart of it.
that's
And that
beautiful.
everything that we do, it's on Thursday nights. It's an hour Zoom program, 7 p.m. Eastern Time. But we have and are developing more enrichment than ever in the speakers that we present and the things we have. Our theme for February is the path to transcendental love in our world. The
Mm,
path to transcendental. In other words, coming to that realization there are no others. And that generationally, this is the message that we must teach no matter how we're coming through. There's no one greater, better than anyone other than we're all in this journey together. And we're all here for equity and purpose. Equity doesn't mean in regards to that everyone is going to have the same journey because we're all different. It means you have the opportunity, that there's equal opportunity for all without exception. And then what we do with it is our own journey. And then in March we're on generational forgiveness. How about that one? And
wow.
then in April and May we're dealing on the subject of grief and loss on multiple dimensions and how we can cope with that and learn from that. And so we have pertinent topics, but we have speakers that come from all different points. We've had from indigenous and black, brown. We've had Asian. We're LGBTQ. It's all of us. Can we listen? Can we listen to one another? And out of that, M.Y.O.B, get busy, mind your own becoming. And that inner work you do on your soul is what will lead you to what you need to be more purposefully in the world itself.
Yeah, that's just fabulous. And I'm sure it gives you a lot of joy and energy to be working. I'm sure it's not just you, you've got
Oh
a
yeah,
team that you work
beautiful.
with.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about the infrastructure, like who's behind Mind Your Own Becoming and how did that all come together?
I believe in divine connections, and that when we have a pure intent that's birthing within us, that we also trust that we will have divine connections that will be revealed divinely and sequentially. And that's been true for my whole life. And the referencing way back 48 years ago to the beginnings of what is now called the Big Sky Retreat. Back then, the very first one was a um, a simple gathering of the New Thought community to come together in a unique way, and out of it developed the Grand Teton Retreat that existed for 20 years there at the Grand Teton Lodge, and but that and my first appearance there, a real zeroing in very quickly. I became and had a sacred friendship with the actress Anne Francis, and it was so precious to me. And she was speaking at the retreat, at the first retreat, and I decided to go because of her. And I went, and she wasn't able to fulfill her commitment because she had a filming engagement. She had to cut it short, and she asked that I speak at that retreat.
Oh, wow.
So I did, and just shortly after, the president, well, not he wasn't the president at that point, but Reverend Al Hurd, who called me. He was the first president of the retreat. And he said, Charles, we want to create this as a board. And would you be on the board of this founding board of this retreat? 48 years later, I'm still on the board. But I want to reference divine connections, that
Yes.
when you have a pure intent, that they will appear, and they will appear divinely and sequentially. And I have someone new that's come on board to the programming for the Big Sky Retreat that is a professor with Antioch and has traveled all over the world, 30 different countries. She's amazing. Her name is Dr. 18 George. She's introducing me to so many new people. It's
And this is on Mind Your Own Becoming,
This
right?
is in Mind Your Own
Yeah.
Becoming. And and I have a wonderful board, and Reverend Stana Canez, and Ann Marchetti, and um, uh, Lemuel Watson, who's also a professor teacher. So many magnificent people that feel your heart and align to it. And you know, I we're by divine connection.
Exactly. So, these divine connections, and, as you're sharing this with us, I'm sure we're all kind of looking back over our own lives to see, oh, yeah, there's been this trail of breadcrumbs, these divine connections that I've made, these people that
Yeah.
have supported me upon my evolutionary healing journey. So I'm sure within the content of your show or your gathering each week that you've had speakers that maybe you weren't so familiar with, people from all walks of life. And I'm sure that can be a little, mind stretching or, challenging at points, because you're talking about some topics that can be a little bit challenging to some egos or some paradigms or belief systems.
Yes.
So what are some of the things that have caused you to stretch a bit through hearing from voices from such a diverse group of people?
Having the willingness to be open to listen and stepping out of my own opinions and views, so that maybe in that process of that willingness to have a spaciousness in my heart to hear something different or new, that I might understand more clearly where someone else is coming from. And also to recognize that historically, our view of history has been very much a mess, because there's so many things that we've been told that are untrue. And the willingness to see that, to own that, to realize that, and and that everyone has a different perspective, that it's not universally the same for all. It's not possible to be.
Mm-hmm.
So just the beauty and the willingness to open to that alone is mind stretching and heart opening, because I'm willing to let go of prejudgment. And that even means in the regards to our politics today, that I'm clear on what I stand for, what I believe in. But I also want to understand what creates or moves someone into where I feel is completely opposite to something that makes sense to me. But what's behind that? If I can understand what's behind that, then perhaps I can have a better compassion, and not agreement per se, but an openness to understand and work from that place. Oh, the whole journey here is that hate will beget hate, will beget hate. Love will beget love, will beget love. And if we have enough of that begetting, we can begin to see hate dissolving, weakening, disappearing, to where we can build the bridges from heart to heart to heart.
Beautiful. What surprised you in this journey with Mind Your Own Becoming and the guests that you've had on? Has there been a couple of surprises that you can share? As people have opened up and had dialogues and shared their stories?
How much I haven't known. How much I haven't known. And how much that we all assume or presume about someone or another race or body of people. That's completely untrue. And the willingness to see that, and how it changes your own perception of yourself. And I'm more at peace with Charles now than ever. And that doesn't mean I've arrived. Um, there, Dr. A.T.M. George recently shared, and I loved it. She said, I don't believe that it's about the journey, not the destination. You know how we hear about it's not the destination, it's the journey. And she said, I don't believe that. She said, it is the destination.
Mm.
It's the remembrance of our source.
Mm.
That's the destination.
Mm-hmm.
And that moved me profoundly. It's like, okay, all my journeys. Oh, wake up, Charles. It is about the destination.
Yeah.
It's about,
And what is that destination? Because we're about to close, and I'd
okay.
love it to end with this one or two thoughts about the destination.
I love it. That destination to me is the remembrance of my source from which I came. It's the remembrance that I was born into, that in that womb when I shared it originally at the beginning. It's like, oh God, what am I coming into? But what I was coming into was my charge, my purpose, to bring the unconditional love, the purposefulness of living, the purposefulness of loving everyone without exception. That's the destination. That's the remembrance to bring to this planet that got entrapped in duality, that got entrapped in separation, that I can remember from whence I came, that we're all stardust, that we're all from the galaxies, and we're in this together to bring a heaven, an expansiousness of consciousness on planet Earth for love for all without exception. Yes.
So it is. Oh my
Can I share,
gosh.
Gus, come here. Come here.
Oh, here we go. We didn't say goodbye to Gus. Well, thank you, Charles. Thank you, Gus, for joining us. Thank you for sharing your beautiful ministry, Mind Your Own Becoming, and your life. It's been just such a pleasure. And thank you, guests, for watching. Thank you to New Thought Media Network and our producer, Michael. And next week, you can't miss it. I have a beautiful guest, Bill Soroka, and he's an author, entrepreneur, and he'll be with us. So thank you again. Bye-bye. Peace and blessings. Bye,
Yay.
Gus. Bye, Charles.
Free my mind, open my heart with the whispers of truth. To live a conscious life, to live a conscious life on the